Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Get Real with Jack and Cindy. I'm Cindy Morrison.
And I'm Jack Wallace.
And we have a special guest here. For those of you who are watching it on YouTube, you can see her sitting in the middle. But we have Kristin Chenoweth is in the house.
Woo-hoo!
Yes.
Yeah. You know, it's funny because we've been friends for a very long time, and we rarely have an intersection of what we do other than camp. We do a Broadway boot camp, which we'll talk about later. But this just seemed like a really perfect opportunity because we've been doing this broadcast about real estate, and I know your new adventure on Broadway is sort of a very related topic.
Yes, it is.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Kristin is developing, producing, and starring in a musical called The Queen of Versailles, which is based on a documentary and then later a series that was a follow-up about a family, specifically a woman who is building the largest house in America.
And she's a character.
She's a character, and the biggest private home will be built in, and is being built in Orlando. Not necessarily where you think.
The Magic Kingdom.
The Magic Kingdom, that's right.
And it's called The Queen of Versailles.
Mhm.
So explain to us how you got interested in this project, ended up producing, starring, everything else, multi-hyphenated.
Well, long time ago, I said Steven Schwartz, when are you going to write me another show? Because he wrote Wicked. And he said, I'm thinking about it. And then right when kind of COVID hit, I was in Oklahoma in my parents' house, and he called me on the phone. And he said, I've got an idea. I'm writing it. You got to say yes. It's The Queen of Versailles. And Lindsay Ferrantino, the book writer, was on that call, as was Michael Arden, who is the director. He just recently won a Tony Award for Parade, the musical on Broadway. And Bill Domashke was the lead producer in that phone call. He produced many things, but he produced currently on Broadway Moulin Rouge. And I agreed to watch the documentary. I watched the documentary, and you guys, I was like, how's this going to be a musical? And then I got back to New York, and we had a meeting about it, and they explained their vision.
Mm-hmm.
And I started becoming very interested. And Stephen goes, let's just do what we did in Wicked. Let's just do Act One. They kind of put together an Act One version, a very, very light Act One version. And we brought some of people, friends and family that we trust in New York to watch it. And I knew we were on to something special. And then, as we do in musicals, we do many, many workshops, and we change and rewrite. And after that first workshop, Steven Schwartz looked at me and he said, I want to do this for you, but I would like for you to also be a producer. Mm-hmm. And Bill said, I would like for you to produce this with me. And to be invited to be on that side of the table, I produced myself and all the things I've done for many years, mm-hmm. but to be invited in a very serious way with this kind of sizable project, I was very honored. And I had a decision to make because I was working on developing Death Becomes Her, which I ultimately had to decide. Mm-hmm. And I decided to do The Queen of Versailles, which reunites me with one of the greatest composers in the world, Steven Schwartz. So and we had such success with Wicked 20 years ago. And
just a wee bit success with Wicked, just a little. 20 years ago.
I know, can you believe it? So, I mean, there's more, but just the interesting subject.
I will say though, like when you watch the documentary, for mm-hmm. people that are out, I think you've got to watch the documentary with a grain of salt when you think about what the musical is going to be.
Yes.
Because I was lucky enough to see one of the readings, and the thing that I took away from more than anything was how much you tell the story of the person, mm-hmm. not just the story of the filming. You know,
yes.
and that you work so hard to not be a caricature, but to be a character, to show her character.
You know, when you watch Sissy Spacek do, I keep bringing this up as an example, but when you watch her do Loretta Lynn in mm-hmm. Coal Miner's Daughter, does she look like her? Not really. Does she sing like her? No. But she was her. She won the Academy Award for it. I'm approaching that in this same way. I'm capturing the spirit. I mean, this tale, and some would say cautionary tale, I call it an American fable. This dream of entitlement and let's see, loss,
Hmm.
love, family, and coming from making it and then having it all taken away. What does that mean? How does that affect you, Kristin, as an audience member? And also, you had fame. You came from a little town, didn't have a lot. There was a lot of things about her that I related to. And watching her, I go, I don't really relate to that. Well, actually, I do. I can relate. I can relate to what it's like to all of a sudden become famous. Now, different from Jackie, I enjoyed it for about 6 months. And I'm not saying I don't like it. There's an ego part of it that each one of us can go, oh, it's nice to be recognized. But, when you're out in your day-to-day, it's kind of also nice to have your privacy
and sleep.
And sleep.
Mm-hmm.
Your privacy is something you give away.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately you find out how you want to use it and use it for good, which I've been able to do. But Jackie still feeds on that fame. She still feeds on how can, and I'm not judging her. I'm just saying that's her thing. She's a brand, and she made a brand out of that, being the Queen of Versailles. She's a queen because she says she's a queen. And that also struck me as hilarious and also, wow.
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah, self-proclaimed. And
Even with a big diamond necklace
It
that
says
says Queen of Versailles.
I'm actually waiting for one. She's been so gracious and opened up her life to me. I visited the ongoing construction in Orlando.
Still going
my
on.
God.
You know what, Cindy? It is amazing. They have a Benihana in there.
So they did finally get it in there.
Yeah, they got it in. They have an English pub that they flew in from England that still has all the markings from the bar. They just took a pub, they flew it over, and they put it in their room. They have an amazing movie room, obviously, music movie room. There's tons of ways to entertain. There's the acoustics. There's marble. Okay, they didn't just buy marble to put in. They went to Italy and bought a whole town that has marble in it. And
that's when you know you have a lot of money. I'm just saying.
A lot of money. And they put that marble in Queen of Versailles. Now, Jackie is constantly changing her mind and changing things, which, as you all can understand, that drives people crazy.
Amen.
And so that's in the show. And, she's had a child that passed. She's had a lot of heartache, too. So who doesn't understand that? There's the human side that I bring in.
Money doesn't protect you from life.
No.
I mean, I think that's I think whenever it was interesting too, because when I went to the reading, the first part was for producers or potential producers. And the second time you did it was for the family. And I, again, was lucky enough to be in the room and watching her watch it. She was entertained and she was excited, but she spent more time watching her family and how they were reacting whenever things were about them or things. It was so interesting. She really is. I mean, she was building that house too with a skating rink and all those things for her family.
Well, especially
and the
for
age
her
they were.
kids originally. They were little kids.
And they were little. Yeah. And so now it's like everything is now different, right?
They're all grown
up.
And now she's like, well, maybe we won't have the skating rink. Maybe we'll have a grand ball. This is where the orchestra will play. This is where we'll have, she's very involved in the Mrs. America pageant. Maybe we'll have, parties for them.
Right.
I think ultimately, and I could be wrong, but she indicated to me, I just saw her last week at my concert in Sarasota. She indicated to me that this is now maybe going to be more an event happening spot. And nobody loves doing that more than Jackie. And I just, her husband, David Siegel, is, you watch this documentary, you get a side to them, and it's easy to make judgments of them. But then you get to know them, and you're like, oh my gosh, they really love each other. There's a 30-some-odd year age difference. They have all these kids. They have all these animals, as you see.
She loves to collect things and kids and animals.
The big theme of the show, Cindy, is when is it enough? We are a society. We are a country of more. But when is it enough?
Yeah.
And we see that all the time with our business because it's like,
sure.
People have their dream list and then they have to take it in reality and whittle it down to what they can afford or what makes sense. So it's kind of interesting to me when I look at this, because if you didn't have the whittle down, if you could just have your dream list and go do it, it would actually be more difficult, because where do you stop?
if it really worked out, we'd all be Barbie and Ken, right? With our Malibu beach house.
Amen, sister. Can we just please live in the pink house?
I'm okay with that.
Me
We're
too.
kind of in a Barbie house.
I know,
in a way,
we
yeah.
love our
So,
lighting.
well, and I think what was for you, like, for me, it's all about the acting, the process, and I love that whole. So, what has been a surprise for you in playing this character that you didn't expect to find in her character?
I have to say, Jackie is a lot, and more, like we said. But there is a side to her that is so. She could come across as that typical dumb blonde, but make no mistake, this lady was a engineer at MIT. She's no joke. She's extremely wise, very smart, sly as a fox. So I don't know if the joke is on us. And let me tell you, just like Dolly said, they can all laugh at me, but they're not laughing at me because I'm laughing at me first. That's Jackie. And that's actually a very humble quality. When you look at it, she'll laugh first. They make fun of me. There's a scene in the show, and also in the movie, there's a reporter going, how do you feel that when people laugh at you and you're doing all this? They were doing a thrift mart when they started losing all their money.
Oh, yeah.
And the reporter said, how do you feel when people, she goes, I say, you laugh at me? Well, laugh on your way down to Siegel Thrift Mart and get my ostrich pants for half price. And I love that about her. She's very, very wise. And somebody that I've become, it sounds strange to say when you see the documentary, and those of you who haven't watched it, who will now go see it, the documentary film, much more than the TV show. When you watch the film, you will go, who is this crazy lady with the boobs? No, there's so much more. Because she's a picture, but she's very wise. And I've become protective of her in a way. And I love her.
I just thought of something that I haven't thought about before. And it's when you're saying all that, being your friend and having been your friend for so long, I feel like you're probably discovering a protectiveness for yourself in this, because there's so much that you said just now that I think through the years, trying to be all the things that you've had to be for all the different people and all the different markets.
This is why Barbie is such a big hit, America Ferrera's monologue.
Right.
Exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
We as women, especially, no offense, but we as women have come to understand, okay, you want to look good, but don't look too good. You want to be smart, but don't outsmart too many people. There's a way we've been taught to be. And Jackie falls in there. I have certainly fallen there. There is no joke that goes by me that I don't get. And if
I love that.
And if I have to laugh, I mean, there's been inappropriateness. We're both women in the industry. There's been inappropriateness going on for years. And I just always remember with Harvey Weinstein when he showed up at a meeting at a hotel room in his robe. I remember saying to him, you go on ahead. He said, I was going to go take a bath. And I said, you go on ahead. I'm going to go eat something out of the mini bar because I've never been to the mini bar at the Four Seasons. I was young. And he was like, I thought, yeah, it's not the way you thought it was going to go, was it, sir? So nobody is smarter truly than women. They may think it's not, but Jackie is one of those two.
Yeah, and I think that's so. I mean, there's got to be a cathartic part of that, because it's like you're getting to turn her from so many people's vision of a joke into a real person with real struggles. And
yes,
I mean,
can you imagine the loss of your child through possible?
No.
Is it suicide? It's not. It's a question in the air. But have all these kids. She had 6, she adopted 1. She had 7, she adopted 1. More, and then that loss. And no matter how much, here you are, one of the wealthiest 1% in our country, and that happens.
And I would think too that not that she doesn't love her children all the same, and then with the same, but I would say that child was the one she had before she had any of this.
That's right.
And she chose to protect and to take like she was at all costs going to make sure that she had a life. And so for that to be the one that makes a decision, either makes life decisions that lead there, or how devastating that has to be.
Devastating.
But I think also we all judge somewhat her reaction to it, and then you go, what can you never just do? I mean,
Can you do the normal thing?
Yeah.
She can never do that.
And
That's
I mean,
not her.
and-
That's why it makes a great musical, though, right?
Yeah.
Because you couldn't make that up. If you made it up, people would say, well, I don't believe that.
Oh, you can't
Because
write.
it's a true story. It really happened.
It's right, Cindy. And when the creative team came to me, and I was one of them, I said, did you see the documentary? I said, years ago. And I said, rewatch it. And I watched it. I thought, this can't be real. But then I got to know her.
Mhm.
And I was like, this is so real.
Mhm.
But you know, think about it. Each of us in our life, we have stories that if you don't, you have a story that go, man, if I could tell that story, no one would believe me.
Mhm.
Me too, and I know you too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. And you know what? It's also interesting too, because I look back on how I've dealt with things that other people would probably have an opinion that I should have dealt with it differently. And the older I get, the more I want to go, you know what? Your opinion does not make any difference to me.
Mhm.
I'm not saying I
Right.
handled it the right way.
Right.
I'm not saying I wouldn't handle it different today. But you know what? You don't know how you're going to handle something until it happens to you.
Exactly right.
You just
especially
don't.
in y'all's field. Okay, mine is a wacko industry, and I love it, but it's it's kind
Oh,
of
ours is a little crazy.
challenge. And I know I often think that what you do is a lot like what I do. It's almost like theater. It's okay. You're in the business of sales. So am I. I'm selling myself.
Mhm.
You're in the business of pleasing. What do they want? How can I help? I'm in the business of what kind of character, what do they need to see for me to get this part?
And no matter what happens, you have to be the coolest head in the room.
That's right.
Because, something can happen on stage and the show must
Keep
go
going,
on.
Keep going.
Mhm.
And
keep
we all
going.
know that we've had a lot of crazy stuff happen to you. I mean, you
Yeah,
have, and you've had to do it on stage. And I mean, the stories of being in the bubble and having to come down when you're dizzy and
Okay, so
Already
let's talk about that because I want to come back to the Queen of Versailles. But
Okay.
this podcast is all about getting real. So let's
Mhm.
get real with some of the crazy things that have happened to you over the years.
Well, I mean, I've had some crazy things happen. I suffer from Meniere's disease, which the main problem with that is vertigo. And I describe it as spinning helicopter or falling elevator. Two of those feelings can happen, or they can happen at once. And there was a situation during Wicked. I flew in a bubble, and what that required me to do is, before the show started, I get in the bubble and I float way, way up past all the guys, the crew, and the gaffers and the wings. I go higher than anyone, and then I float down on a electronic machine that is set to a certain speed, because as I'm singing the opening number, I'm floating like Glenda does.
it's a
Mhm.
wonderful opening.
It's
Yeah.
a wonderful opening. Well, one night, and I had vertigo, one night something happened and it was put on speed.
So your bubble came down.
Fast forward. So I was going, and I was like, and I had vertigo, and I was like, they're like, Glenda. They can't really find her. And I'm like, it's good to see me, isn't it? I mean, I was so sick. That happened. Oh my gosh. I was doing a show in Minneapolis at the Guthrie Theater, the illustrious Guthrie Theater, and I had 14 costume changes in that show. There was a big tap number where I tapped all the way down a huge staircase, and as I tapped, the stairs would light up, and I had a wig change right before that scene. I didn't get the wig on very good, I guess, and I saw something as I was tapping down the stairs fly, but I thought it was just a hair or something. And at the end of this, getting down at the bottom of the steps, I see my wig laying there, and I'd seen the audience sniggering, and I thought, well, they really are finding this funny. Anyway, there's a million of them, and they're all true.
My
And
favorite was
live,
Yes.
live.
Well, John and I
Mhm.
went to see you in on the 20th century,
Uh-huh.
and
My favorite show.
it was
I've
so
ever done.
good. But there was a scene where you were in a train, and they put the train cards together, and she's standing there, and I think you had one leg on one side and one, and it starts to they started to move apart, like they weren't supposed to, but like the train was actually, and you just made this incredible part of it where you're like surfing over it.
I
and
was
then-
doing like almost the split.
I thought the audience, the audience actually stood and applauded.
They
I mean,
did.
that's what's so fun for you too, is you take things that happen like that, and if you have to, you make it a part of it, and you just make it, it's all entertainment. I
I
mean,
feel lucky that one of my skills with being a comedian is to save myself in situations like that.
That's a gift.
Not every actor can.
well, it's like watching the
I'm
Carol
almost
Burnett
like
show.
them. It's like Carol Burnett.
Yeah, she
Mhm.
was the master of
And who
doing
did I
that.
learn from?
Yeah.
Okay, so the story I want to know is I remember when you won your first Tony,
Mhm.
you're in the Charlie Brown
Mhm.
musical, you're dressed in your costume.
Uh-huh.
And this is we were both in Miss Oklahoma
Yes, we
right around
were.
the same time.
Yes, we were.
And only a pageant girl could do this. The next thing I know, you win and come out and look like this. How did you have that quick of a change?
It was 14 seconds.
Seriously.
I had performed the number from the musical that was mine on the show, and then I had while they listed the nominees, they showed a placard picture of me because I wasn't sitting in the audience. And during the 14 seconds, Rosie O'Donnell, who had a very famous talk show on at the time, I had lamented to her that I wasn't going to be able to have time to look like a person if I win. And she said, I'll give you my dresser. So my dresser and her dresser double teamed me. I had my Sally Brown wig, and then I had a wig that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
So we plopped that one on. I stood there. Out came the Sally Brown dress. On came my original Tommy Hilfiger dress, and I thought, oh crap! If I don't win, it brings out a whole new level of all dressed up and no place to go. And I do end up winning, and I by the time they zipped up my dress, I heard my name and I walked out.
Wow.
Mhm.
Now that's a pro right there.
And
Oh,
how cool that
I
Rosie
had a
did that.
7-second change.
I love that
in
Rosie
Wicked.
did that for you though
Oh.
too. She was
Yeah.
so good to you in the beginning. I mean, and you forget how powerful she was at that time because she had the biggest show.
She made stars. She made stars. I was just texting with her the other day. We're still very, very close. And she asked me to go to Broadway show. I said, I'm not going to be there, but boy, do I miss you and I miss your show. And I just said, Rosie, every once in a while, I just have to thank you for what you've done for me.
Mm.
And I said, thank you for believing in not just me, but in music theater
Mm-hmm.
and for coming in and touting some of us. And she definitely, she put me on her show many times. She was like the Johnny Carson of her time on daytime.
It's really
and I
true.
thank her all the time. I mean, we're friends. I talk to her a lot, but every once in a while I'll just pause and go, wow, you did that for me. Thanks.
You know what I think is so great too is through the years, all the people that I've ever met that all the people through you that I've been fortunate enough to meet, and every single person they love you. I mean, it really is sort of funny. And so whenever my friends will say, that haven't met you, which now there's few, but whenever they haven't met you, they'll say, well, is she like she seemed? I'm like, she's so much more. I mean, like you're so great and you're so generous. It's like
And gracious.
And that's what the whole get real thing is so interesting with you because you are so real. I mean,
you know what I've learned, y'all, and especially since you're doing this podcast with that title, the times that I thought I have to put on, or I have to put on, this comes with age too. I have to be a certain way. The more I'm just myself,
Mm-hmm.
the most freeing is that. And I have a shirt that says I'm not for everyone, because
Mhm.
I'm not. But who wants to be that?
Yeah.
There's something wrong with you if you're for everyone, except for maybe Dolly Parton.
Amen.
But thank you for that.
What I think is what is that I sent you the other day on David Bowie talking about aging as the most wonderful process of becoming who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It is.
I mean, that's so joyful to get to realize all I have to do is just to get to be who I am.
Yes.
And that's all that really is going to make me happy.
I know.
Yeah, we walk this world happy if we are authentic.
If you're authentic self, nobody can get too mad at you. They might not agree with you. They might not think that's for them, but nobody can get too mad at you. If I actually feel sorry when I watch people not, and I know they're not them.
Mm-hmm.
I feel sorry for them. I'm like, you don't have to do that.
You haven't learned it yet.
Yeah.
You're trying to do that.
I think that's the wonderful thing about your 50s, though.
Oh.
You really start figuring things out.
I know, and I can't wait.
I know.
So you've heard.
That's what I heard.
When I turned 50, I thought, oh no, this is the beginning of the end. Because my 40s were so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Just gets
50s
better.
are great.
Just getting started, really.
It feels that way.
So let's get real about your friendship with Jack and growing up in Tulsa, now being in New York.
Well,
I should say Broken Arrow. I know it's a little ways down the
okay,
road
but
from
you
Tulsa.
know what?
Back then, it was very two cities.
It was
Yeah.
literally separated, but I still felt like I was a community. I took piano lessons at Tulsa University. I did ballet with Tulsa Ballet Theater's junior dance.
Mhm.
So like I was a Tulsa girl too, in a way.
Mm.
growing up, there was exactly 5 people in the choir. We had to have a madrigal group because we couldn't have enough to be in the choir. I felt like a little bit of an outcast just because I knew I wanted to do theater and choir now, and we just didn't have that much of it there. So I became a cheerleader and I became a taigette because that was my way to perform. And
Broken Arrow, their mascot is the Tigers. If you're wondering what a taigette
thank
is.
you. Yes, I was on the drill team, and
I was a Trojan, which is the most unfortunate thing.
It is a little, and we were so competitive.
Oh, I know.
Jinx and Broken Arrow. Where'd you go?
I grew up in Lubbock, Texas,
That's
so I was a
right.
Monterey Plainsman.
Monterey Plainsman.
Plainsman. We had a
What is
guy
a plainsman?
dressed
How
up,
very
sort of like
appropriate.
like Davy Crockett, and he twirled a rifle.
I'm sorry for laughing.
Wow. Okay,
How very woke
I'll take
of you.
Trojan.
Yeah, I
over
know,
Plainsman,
right?
Sorry.
She was woke before woke was but growing up there, that all being said, I had a great group of friends. I had a great group at church. It was my community. We didn't have a theater. We have one now.
Amen.
And when I graduated from Broken Arrow, I went to Oklahoma City University. So I kept it. I could have gone anywhere, but I wanted to study with this person named Florence Birdwell at
Which we
OCU.
both studied with
Yes, we
Florence
did.
Birdwell.
So we
She's
know.
amazing.
We
yes.
love her.
She was
And
the best.
She was the best. And I just feel like if I hadn't had all that experience and that kind of growing up, I wonder how I'd be now in my own career. I just wonder.
So kind of set your Geiger counter for life, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, talk about getting real.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get more real than, Rooster Day Parade. And you're carrying the banner for the band because you didn't play your solo very good for flute. It was constantly not like today's times. It was like, suck it up, do your best, don't cry. Now, there's a lot of that I agree with still, and I know that's not very popular. But I also think what we are learning from this generation as well is not everything has to, there's people that do battle anxiety and do battle depression, and I had that. I had depression, and I wouldn't dare have spoken about it. I wouldn't have dare have gone down that path. And now it's okay to say that's something I struggle with, but I'm okay. And I keep going, keep moving forward. The friends that I had in high school, especially the friends I had at OCU when I found my tribe, those are my people. And they're my friends I have today now. One of those friends was John Sawyer. And we performed together in many shows on the OCU stage. I think I was his pretend girlfriend for a hot second.
And he's not here to defend himself, but he would say yes.
He would say yes.
Proudly, he would say yes.
Thank you. But
He could have done a lot worse.
Oh, thank you. We became very close. And then we moved to New York. We were both in New York together. He was doing Broadway. I was doing Broadway. He was so proud of me, the way things unraveled for me there. And then he says, I think I'm going to take a pause.
After 9/11, right?
So I think I don't want to be here. And I was like, don't leave. Are you crazy? New York's the best. And don't leave the show business. And he said, I think I want to do real estate or something. I want to go back to Tulsa. So I said, well, if that's something you want to do, you need to go check it out because this business is hard. If you don't want to do it anymore, you should go do that other thing. So he moves home, and then he calls me or emails me. I can't remember. And he says, so listen, there's this person I've met. And I really want, next time I had a big concert in Tulsa. And he said, I hope that you have a chance to meet him. And he introduced me to this kid, Jack. And what then happened was I became closer with Jack. We just had an immediate bond. And I think John also loved that because he was the conduit of it.
He did.
Yeah.
And he was already like my brother. So it's just amazing how God works. Like you think you have this one friend and then God gives you this whole other relationship and beautiful friendship with somebody that's connected to this other friend. So it's just so cool the way it all went down. And that's how it happened.
And I think he probably is very real with you. Jack and I have a lot of conversations like that
so
too.
Real.
Yeah, and I especially
Sometimes I don't want him to be.
I was gonna say, she may wish I was a little less real.
No, I'm not.
no, but I think
Everyone
that really
needs that.
sets him
But
apart.
everyone needs
Yes.
that.
And I need family.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I
my
think
feeling.
that's the thing people don't realize sometimes too, is that we all really do. And back to kind of the whole thing we were talking about with Queen of Versailles, some people, you need some people that will say no, or I'll call you out, or say, just be you. Don't,
Here's
yeah.
the deal. In my business and in my little fame that I have, my career, I have people that yes me to death. You're wonderful. You're amazing. You're the most amazing. Oh my gosh, we love you. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Then I have, no, we don't want you. No, you're wrong for this. Can't stand what you're doing. Hate your voice. Da 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 da. I need that person and that group
Mhm.
in the middle that goes, yeah, that wasn't your best, or this is where you really shine.
Mhm.
I always know I'm going to get the truth.
Yeah.
And it's my mom and dad, it's a couple of my other friends, and Jack. And I know I'm always going to get the truth. And frankly, it's a relief because I need that person. I need that person to say, are you okay? Something's not right with you right now, Chris. I need that because everybody, when I show up, like for instance today, I'm giving you, my best.
With your natural hair and
Oh,
no
yeah, my
makeup.
natural hair, my no
yeah,
makeup,
me
and my new shirt. But I am also the girl, am I not? I like to go home. Jackie Siegel's not like this. I don't wear makeup every day. I don't do my hair every day. I'm in Lululemon most of the time. I walk around, and most of the time people are like, you look like you could possibly be.
I hear that all the time.
I get that a lot. So it's nice to be able to be free that way. And I get that way when I come home too a lot.
And you know what? It's like you were saying, to tell you it was not your best or it was good. Really, yes, to agree. But really, I think it's about having someone who says, honey, I don't care.
Oh,
I just love you.
I just love you
like,
anyway.
I just love you. Like, that's what you do. That's not who you
It's
are.
such a
That's,
relief.
yeah.
Last night we did a fundraiser for the Kristin Chenoweth Broadway boot camp. And this morning I said, oh, Jack, I'm so tired. We were going to go to salt yoga. And he said, oh, praise baby Jesus.
I even had my hair in my man bun ready
he
to
said,
go.
oh, praise Jesus, we're not going. I said, I'm so tired. He goes, go back to bed. It keeps it real.
And speaking of the boot camp.
Yeah.
So I really love that Kristin is leaving her mark on so many kids, not just here in Oklahoma, but that's where it started, to really make a difference, leave a legacy. So tell us about your boot camp, how it started 10 years ago and where it is now.
They came to me and they said, we've got this performing arts center, it's built, somebody died, left us a lot of money, and we want to name the theater after you. And I explained to them I was far too young to have something named after me. And they said, no, you're not. So my dad just said, how are you going to make this your legacy? And what do you want to do with it? And I said, well, I'm going to have all the acts come in and I'll sing and we'll all do our thing. And he said, okay, but what else? Giving back. I'm like, so I thought about it with Jack and John. We came up with Kristin Chenoweth Broadway Boot Camp. And I invite all my much more talented Broadway star friends to come in and teach for 2 weeks out of every summer. And then we put on a show at the end of the 2-week period. What's interesting is we really wanted to start this for just kids in Oklahoma because I didn't have this growing up. Not an intensive. This is not a participation award camp. This is become competitive, and yet these kids are finding their tribe. They're finding who their people are.
Yeah.
And that makes me the most happy. But once COVID hit, it's been going great for so many years. Once COVID hit, we opened it virtually, and we had kids from all over the world. And now we open it up to kids from all over the world. We have kids from all over the world coming to Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and having Broadway boot camp. And now I'm seeing the fruits of my labor with some of these kids starting to become professional. And that is why I created it. And that's why we created it. And yes, we want kids who want to do this for a living, but sometimes we pick kids when they audition just because they have an interesting quality about them. Maybe they're never going to do this, but we want them in our camp for camaraderie, for encouragement,
for dance, for movement,
yeah.
And you're already seeing success from these kids. Tell us about Tatum.
Tatum Hopkins is from Shawnee, Oklahoma. Jack and John saw her audition when she was 13 years old and called me on the phone, and they said, we've got a young you. And
it was crazy. I mean, she came in and did Billy Elliot Energy, and she walked in real scared and shy, and then she was literally like this tall, and then the music started, and she just became, and it was like we both were like, what is happening? This is unbelievable.
Well, and then you think, okay, Jack and John, are you just being? So then I come that summer.
Because we can be dramatic.
No,
Oh,
Lord, no.
I know, no, not them. And she's amazing. And so we have these Christie Awards at the end of the camp, the best hairdo, and we do have some, like one big one at the end where I give a scholarship to someone who can use that money for singing, acting, and dance only.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a personal scholarship I give. And I called Tatum into my room that night before the show. I said, Tatum, this is actually after camp year 2 she'd come. I said, Tatum, we're going to give our big award tonight. And sometimes the best doesn't win.
Mm.
We know that from being in Miss Oklahoma.
I know, right?
Just kidding.
I've crowned myself so many times
So
in my
have
head,
I.
though. Yeah.
So have I.
Mhm.
Me too.
But in life, things aren't always going to work out. And in jobs, even for me, I've had directors say, actually, I'm going to hire you for something else. You're not right for this. And sometimes, and he goes, you're the best one I've seen today, but it's not going to, there's a quality missing from this part or whatever.
Mhm.
I told her, you're not going to get the big award, but what you are going to do is you're going to make your Broadway debut with me in a concert that I do on Broadway. I've done 2 of my own concerts on Broadway. Would you like to come to New York and make your Broadway debut in a concert with me? And she started crying. And I said, is that good or is it getting the award? She goes, that. So
Smart girl.
now we've evolved into, I did not insist this happening. I am a producer of Queen of Versailles. Jack knows the story, but I was performing in New Jersey. Stephen Schwartz was coming to the show. There was one character that we had not cast yet that I knew Tatum was perfect for. She, by the way, since then moved to New York and started studying and auditioning and going to school. And she's
18, by the way.
Yeah, and at this point she was 16. And she sings at my concert. I invite her to sing on stage. And after this, it was just what I'd hoped. After the show, Stephen goes, who's the girl? I said, she should play Jonquil, shouldn't she? And he goes, yes. So the creators invited her to come audition, and she got the role fair and square in the Queen of Versailles. So Tatum Hopkins and I will be returning to Broadway. She will be making her Broadway debut in a musical with me.
You just
so
can't
amazing.
understand how much we love these kids. I
Mhm.
mean, it's so,
Thank you, Jack.
we love them so much. In fact,
All of them. There's quite
are,
a few
and we love them
Tatums.
for different reasons. Some of
Yes.
them, some of them are, we have some that are getting married now that met at some of our first camp.
Mhm.
We've got one who's becoming a doctor. They're all different walks, and we love them all. It's
We
not just
adore
the
them.
success stories. And,
No.
and even we were on the phone yesterday, FaceTiming with our girl from England,
Mhm.
trying to coordinate how she can get here this year. That's kind of, we just really take this and it's very, very important
It's
to us.
special. In fact, it's going to kill me because this summer I'm going to be in Boston doing the out-of-town run of Queen of Versailles with Tatum.
That's showbiz.
That's showbiz,
Mhm.
but I am going to surprise. I'm going to actually end up getting to come for 1 or 2 days on my day off. I'm going to fly, kick my butt to get there. But I can't imagine not showing my face. This is the most important. I've turned down jobs so I can do camp.
Mhm.
I was unable to do that this summer, but when we are currently right now, Cindy, going through the auditions.
Ooh.
There's more talent this year that I could throw
It's
a
so
stick at.
crazy.
It's crazy.
So for people who are listening out there and they want to get involved, their kids want to get involved, they want to give money, how do they do that?
For this year, it's too late to audition. Those have been closed. As far as giving money, you can go to the Broken Arrow Performing Arts website, and there's a link to give for the Kristin Chenoweth Arts and Education Fund, or DM me,
Yeah.
and I'll get you the information. Yeah, but and we really do. It's a very expensive. We bring in Tony winners. We bring in
Everybody.
big
Yeah, let's
people.
name drop a few.
Faith Prince is one who's been there forever. In fact, she was the cabaret when we were growing up. We all had her CD, and we wore or tape
Oh
of
yeah.
her cabaret, and she won for Adelaide in Guys and Dolls with Nathan Lane, and she was
Wow.
all of our hero. And from the first camp, she came and has been a teacher, and the
We've
kids
had so many.
adore
We've
her.
had Kevin Chamberlain, who's most kids know from
That's
Nickelodeon.
right, Jesse.
Jesse, but we've had many people who teach virtually too. We've had Norm Lewis, we've had Aaron Tveit, we've had a conversation with Ariana Grande, we've had a conversation with, oh my gosh, Kelly O'Hara, who wants to come and teach.
Kenny Ortega
Kenny
directed
Ortega
a
directed
couple of
the
years.
Kenny Ortega of High School Musicals and The Descendants, of which I was
And
in,
Dirty Dancing.
and
the
Dirty
movie.
Dancing, the movie, and Michael Jackson's documentary. He directed the documentary that
Yeah,
we
so
filmed.
there's going to be a documentary
Yes.
coming out on the camp,
Yes.
and they follow you around. So we're waiting to finish up production and find out where that's going to land.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
exciting.
Thank you.
So, all right, as we begin to wrap this up, I want to just one more time talk about Queen of Versailles.
Okay.
How can people come and see the first run in Boston? Where can they get tickets in New York?
So tickets for New York have not been available yet because we are currently trying to find out which theater we will land
Oh,
at.
okay.
There's certain ones that we know we would like more than others, so we are going to wait patiently for our turn.
Perfect. And that'll depend on when you start too, right?
That's exactly right. This summer we open at the Colonial Theater in Boston at July 15th, and we run for, I think, 5 weeks through August 21st. Those tickets, I'm proud to say that we broke the record for out-of-town sales. Currently held was the record 500,000 in the first day for Moulin Rouge, and we did almost 1 million our first day.
Wow.
So people should, if you find yourselves in the Boston area this summer, you
Oh, I
should-
think we're going to find ourselves in the Boston area this
I will
summer.
be leaving camp and
That's
going
right.
right to Boston.
But please get your tickets because they're going to sell out.
Yeah.
It's also fun to see the preview because it doesn't usually end up being
No,
like
we'll-
the show.
We'll
It's
be
very,
working on the show.
yeah, it changes all through previews.
Well, that
and
just
then,
means I'll have
yeah.
to come back and see it on
Yeah,
Broadway,
it's
Jack.
exciting. Yeah.
All right. So anything else you want to say? Get real with our audience. I know we're more of a real estate show, but it's really about just being real with people.
I think it's such a great message. That's why when Jack asked me to do it, I was like, and then y'all sent me a version of what you did. I thought it was really cool. Like I said, I've always felt like what you do and what I do is not that far apart.
Mhm.
And I think too, as an audience member watching y'all, and this being the title of your podcast, and there's so many podcasts that people can watch. But I love this Let's Get Real because, again, just being allowed to say this, just if I could reach out and say the best bit of advice I've ever given is just being yourself. Dolly said it best, be yourself because everybody else is taken. And as you work to find your perfect home or your perfect forever space, just know that sometimes it might not be in the exact box that you had in your brain. It might be something else. And people like these two can really open that up and show you. And I've just bought a new apartment in New York. I live in Nashville as well. Eventually I'm going to want a home in Nashville.
We know some good real estate agents who
yeah.
can refer you.
Yeah. And so it's just a game of patience and listening and just being present and open to something you might not have always thought. So I think this is a great podcast, and I want to personally congratulate you both on putting this together. I think it's really awesome, and it's great for Oklahoma.
Well, I'm going to get real
Okay.
and tell you that you have made my life vastly more amazing, interesting, and I am so grateful that I have you in my life. I don't know that I would be here without you. Thank you.
Same at you, kid. Thank you.
I love it. So guys, thank you so much. Kristin, thank you for not just coming on our podcast, but coming home and making a difference here in Oklahoma.
Thank you.
It really is an incredible legacy, and a lot of people leave and forget where they came from, and you have not.
I will never forget.
That's awesome.
Thank you, honey.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we will be back next week with a new podcast. Thank you so much for
Thank
listening.
you, everybody.
This is Get Real with Jack and Cindy.
That was great. Y'all are so good.
Good.